Destiny Talk. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. Last week was our debut show, and we had an awesome time. I want to thank everybody that tuned in, sent in your questions, participated in the show. We hope we have the same response today. And for those of you that are new, Destiny Talk is here just for you, where we respect, appreciate, value everyone. This is a judge zone conversation, so you are free to express yourself and thought and not be penalized for it. We have an awesome show today for you guys. I heard your responses and your questions and your requests. We are going to attempt to take care of them today. I have some awesome guests that are going to be in the house, and I'm going to introduce them to you later, where we facilitate this conversation. Make sure that you get the information that you are looking for. But before we get started with all of this great conversation, I do have to send a shout out to Cowboys. Woo woo. What an awesome birthday present you guys gave me. Cowboys 1, Giants 0. That's all I have to say about that, because you know everybody can't be a part of greatness. Now, let me tell you about a little story was sent on Facebook that I wanted to share a little bit about it with you, because it's going to set up what we're going to talk with you about today. Now, with this passage that I'm reading, I am not imposing any type of religious beliefs on anyone or assuming that you have any religious beliefs. Whatever your faith is, if you have one, don't have one, it's not a problem. It's just the content story that I'm going to use to set up our conversation for today. So, the message was sent to me. Billy Graham's daughter was interviewed on the early show, and Jane Clayson asked her about how could God let something like this happen regarding the attacks on September 11. Anne Graham gave an extremely profound and insightful response. She said, "I believe God is deeply saddened by this, just as we are. But for years, we've been telling God to get out of our schools, to get out of our government, and to get out of our lives. And being the gentleman he is, I believe he has calmly backed out. And how can we expect God to give us his blessings and protect us if we demand he leave us alone? In light of the recent terrorist attacks, school shootings, etc., I think it started when Madeleine O'Hara, she was murdered and her body found recently, complained she didn't want prayer in our schools. We said, okay. Then someone said, you better not read the Bible in the school, and the Bible says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, and love your neighbors as yourself. And we said, okay. Then Dr. Benjamin Spock said, we shouldn't spank our children when they misbehave, because their little personalities would be warped and we might damage their self-esteem. Dr. Spock's son committed suicide. We said, he's an expert, he should know what he's talking about. And we said, okay, we went along with it. Now she asked, and she said also, now we're asking ourselves why our children have no conscience, why they don't know right from wrong, and why they kill themselves and their classmates. She said, we reap what we sow. That was a very much of a loaded statement, and we're going to go right into that. And when we come back, we're going to talk to you why I read this passage. We've got something for our men. We're going to tell you why you're important, a man's worth. Superwomen, don't go anywhere, because we got something for you. And you're talking to or listening to Cherry on Destiny Talk Live.
You don't know the power of the Sensation Station Network. The power.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
There's a power you have within you, unlike any other. You can't explain it. It's just there. It drives you, compels you. You cannot ignore it. Do you feel it? It's that power that tells you you can do the absolute impossible. The power that tells you you're more than what you currently are. The power that tells you it's time. Launch. Move. Skyrocket your life with Rocket Sports One fitness gear. RocketSports-One.com.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Y'all need anything else?
Sensation Station Network.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. Just before the break, we talked about a story with Billy Graham's daughter and how a question was asked of her on why we would allow God to do certain things that happen in the world, like September 11th and some of the terrorist attacks. We also, like I said, we're going to have some stuff here for our women, so I want you guys to stay tuned, and we're going to talk about family ties. But right now, I want to introduce my guests today that are going to help me facilitate this conversation on a man's worth. We're going to start over here to my left with Santrell Green. Hello, Santrell. How are you?
Good morning, Cherry. I'm great. How are you?
Thank you very much. What I need for you to do, Santrell, is please give us your name, how they can find you, and why you chose to be on Destiny Talk today.
As Cherry said, my name is Santrell Green. I am the owner of the Eliam Group Training and Consulting. I can be reached at www.theeliam, and it's spelled ELIAM, grouptraining.com, or Santrell at Eliam Group Training. And lastly, it's 678-993-0757. And the reason why I chose to be on Destiny Talk this morning is because there are so many people out there who are not living life to the fullest because they're getting in their own way. And I have had my own struggles and have come through them and really want to be a tool, a source of relief to bring freedom to those who are not able to live their lives the way they want to be. I want to give hope where there may not be any.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and sharing your experiences in life with us. And next over here, I have Mr. Jay Wesley. I'm going to let Mr. Jay, introduce himself. And we've kind of been on this journey together to start our shows at the same time. And we're both Virgos, so we awesome. So go ahead, Jay, introduce yourself for me, please.
Hey, what's happening? Thanks for having me. I'm Jay Wesley, the founder of Cocktail Chronicles and the host of 100 Proof Radio Show right here on the Sensation Station Network every Tuesday at 10 p.m. And my show is to empower consumers about their beverage choices, and we do that through interesting dialogues every week. And I choose to be here today to help be a liaison with helping women to communicate with men and helping men to communicate with women. And so if I can be assistance into your show today, that's my goal.
I appreciate you coming, and I know you're going to be great at it because all of us have gone through some things that we can share and help people get through. Now, my listeners, this is the time where you can call in and participate in the conversation. You can call or text. Please do not text if you are driving to 678-613-5857. If you want to type your questions in on Facebook, we will answer them. And if you want to tune in, just logging into the internet, it's www.ssnatl.com, and we will get to your questions and your response. So let's get down to this. The reason why I read the passage with Billy Graham's daughter and the newscaster asking her these questions as to why God would let things happen, in that she explained that he just backed out of participating in things because we asked him to. Now, the reason why I brought that up is a conversation that Santrell and I were having earlier is a lot of us do that in our own lives. We're solid, we think, in who we are. We stand our ground. We're going to do this. And then someone will walk up and say to us, Cherry, I don't think you need to do it that way. You need to do it this way. Then they have us second guessing ourselves. And then we back up from what we stand true to and start following into the norm of everyone else, assimilating into a culture. And what does that happen? What happens with that? We lose ourselves in the process. And that's when that domino effect of problems and troubles start falling into place, and we start losing what our purpose is. So I want to put this disclaimer out there. On Destiny Talk here, we are not licensed medical professions. What we're doing is sharing on the job training, things that we've been through, and hopefully give you an idea or an avenue to use something different for your life, for you to think about differently. If you are under the care of a physician or anything like that, and you're on medication doing whatever they're telling you to do, I need you to still do that. You can listen to the show, but still do that. And if you want to take something we said back to them, do that too. It might help you. So let's get right into this. Last week, we talked about how important it was for the fathers to be in the home. And my guest last week, Tanika, had made a comment that even though we say it's important for them to be there, if the father is broken, then how good is that for the child or the son? And I got questions and comments that were saying, hey, Cherry, why don't you dig deeper into that? How do we get to the bottom of the root cause of the problems that we have? And how do we recognize them? The biggest thing is you've got to be able and in a place and in a mindset where you're going to step back and say, hey, this vicious cycle that I keep repeating of this nonsense that's going on, I got to break it down. I got to figure out why I keep coming back to this point. And you got to start with yourself. So my first question is going to be for Jay, because I know women, we're emotional, and some of us, we will tell it off our sleeves and don't care. But men have a hard time talking about things that may have affected them in their past that's keeping them from going forward today. So how can we get you guys to talk, or what's the best way for us to communicate with you?
Well, one thing, going back to, you mentioned cycle, it's not going to be cleared up in one generation. We can only get better as we go, and so each generation should get better and better. I'm a better father to my child than I believe my father was to me. Hopefully, my son will be a better father to his children than I was to him. So oftentimes, particularly in the black community, we are just behind the eight ball in nurturing, developing, and fostering our children based on just history alone. We didn't have the resources, the access, the financial funds to do it. We were suppressed and depressed for years. So we're beginning to come out of that, but we're behind the eight ball according to other races in being a man or being a good father. And as far as your current question, as far as how to communicate, is I always tell women that you have to, two things are happening. One, men are being taught that you can't cry, you can't show emotion, and so we have to teach boys that it's okay to cry. A person who cries is a person with a heart, is what I say. A person who does not cry or shed a tear is a person without a heart. So it's okay and it's fine to be vulnerable, but as men, we're taught not to do that. And then lastly, you have to embrace it when we do open up versus saying, get over it, like what you're crying for, which is what I have experienced personally and have witnessed a lot of women doing to men, which causes us to lock up and become a shell.
You said something important, and I agree with you, what you said, because it wasn't only just taught to boys that they don't cry. I didn't cry growing up because I felt like if somebody saw me cry, it was a sign of weakness, and that you think you can run all over me. So, and that's something, a myth that we have to kill. We have to stop that. And you're right, it does not stop in just one generation. It starts at home, and it starts with you. And we have to, people, get on board and understand that. When we come back, I'm going to have Santrell give her opinion on that. And you guys, please stay tuned. You're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
A Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a
I
cold
want to be
day.
a football
I want to
stadium.
be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Uncle Dan?
Mom? Dad?
If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them.
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
Safer when my friends come over.
As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
We'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. We are talking about a man's worth, and just before the break, we talked about why or how we can communicate with a man better and why they don't communicate the way women do. So, Centrell, on that, give me your feedback on what Jay had to say, please.
I think what Jay said is very accurate as far as society's description of who a man actually should be. You know, don't be soft. On so that softer side of you, you have to be strong and hold it together for everyone. And I just agree with Jay in that men, just as women, we have multiple sides to us. We have to recognize and give the men in our lives permission to be fully who they are. Whether it be that softer side or that harder side, we need to allow them. They need to know that it's a safe space for them. With my husband, I tell him, I was like, I don't need you to be a Superman for me. I need to see. I want to know the full sides. I have 2 sons, and I tell them, you know, you have to be the fullness of who you are. And there is a soft side of you. There is that quote unquote tough side. Don't look at society's description of who you should be as a male. Feed into every part of who you are. And as a woman, I am there to support that in my brother's lives, my husband's life, and my son's life.
You know, you guys both said something that I really want to touch on, because when Jay was saying that when women come at them when they're trying to communicate or whatever and kind of shoot them down, it to me puts them back in a shell. And then we get those other problems that we don't want to have in a relationship, causes the man to be angry, causes the man to not even value you as who you are, because you're devaluing him by not respecting him and appreciating what he has to bring to the table. And we have a lot of times we have problems with doing that. And growing up, having a large family, there's 9 of us. There's 5 boys and 4 girls. No, I'm lying. It's 4 boys, 5 girls. Ooh, I don't even know how many people I got in my family. And we had a host of foster brothers and sisters, but all of us have 9 different personalities. 9. And I don't know how my parents did it, because I had issues with 3 personalities. had to
I
deal
have
with.
issues with one.
And they got 9, you know. So I saw a lot of things growing up that, like Jay said, I was like, I'm not going to be that way. I'm going to be a little bit different with them. But Jay, can you say that when you're shut out, men are shut out or not held, allowed to be who they are, is what really leads to disruptive behavior?
Yeah, absolutely, because you are forced unconsciously to project to be harder, in order to survive. And particularly depending on where you grew up. I grew up in the hood, west side of Chicago. And so, if you were softer, if you were smart, or if you were polite and courteous and possess all of the attributes and characteristics of chivalry, it was not respected, and so you were picked on. So it forces you to be tougher, to be able to defend yourself. You have to hide that you have those qualities. You have to hide that you're smart because you were just picked on just by peers alone. And so yes, and as a result of being harder, it creates disruptiveness.
And that's sad that you would have to hide those great qualities about yourself because of what's around you and in the society. Centrell, what do you think about that? I mean, I know before you come in, I know growing up where I did, and I guess I had both. I had both sides. I could see both sides. And the young men were taught to be gentlemen. It was for you to be respectful. You say, open the door for a lady. You open the car door for a lady. You don't call them out of their name. But you're coming from Chicago, the rough side, and you do those things. You're going to be bullied and picked on. What do you think about that, Centrell?
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, fortunately, my brother was taught to be, my oldest brother, who I'm very close to, he was taught to be a good guy. He is a good guy. As you said, opening the door for women, teaching his daughters that they are loved and so on. But I really, as you were talking, Jay, I said, men, unfortunately, have had to walk around with multiple personalities. You have to be this way in the street and when you come home. And any human being can only do that for so long, because I would imagine that it becomes wearing on you as well. It's just, I just want to be who I am. And we have to provide room for that. We all have different aspects to us, but we have to be willing to provide room for those to be shown.
And when we talked about this last week on the show, we talked about what they call the generational curse. And and I know growing up, because if we go back to all the way back to the earlier days, men they were strong. You had no choice but to be strong. You couldn't show a sign of weakness, like Jay said earlier. But when has it become that if you have compassion that you're weak? Right. I never understood that. I would love a man to have compassion. I want to know what's going on with you. I want to know how I can help you. But one thing I have to put out there for everybody, whether you're a man or a woman, you can't change anybody. I don't want anybody to go in with that misconception that, if I get with them, I'm going to be able to change the way they are. No, I'm telling you, you're not. And 9 times out of 10, you may end up like they are, a hot mess. So what I'm saying is we have to do something better at breaking this stigma that we cannot be compassionate and still be strong. Because I think it's really what is the problem of what's happening with our youth and our women and our men today. But we're going to talk more into that, especially on the women's side. Ladies, don't go nowhere. Superwomen, I got something for you. Thank you guys for tuning in. You are listening to Cherry on Destiny Talk Live.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Your health is at stake. Diabetes, gout, high blood pressure, inflammation, and joint pain, even weight loss. It's time to end your battle. The Abundant Life Movement is dedicated to the building of generational health by transforming your water with the power of alkaline to improve hydration and fight against acidic and unhealthy conditions in the body. Here's a testimonial from Linda Rogers Brown and Pamela McMillan.
2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no pain and no symptoms associated with that illness. It's a silent killer. I was introduced to Extreme X2O alkaline water, and within 2 days of drinking it, I was off all my pain medicine, and now we're 6 years strong, no chemo, no radiation, no cancer.
I am a 3-time cancer survivor. I was born with thyroid cancer. By being on the alkaline products allowed me to be able to cope currently with colon cancer. Now I'm able to function and be more mobile within 3 days of being on the product.
Extreme X2O, when the water you're drinking is damaging your health. Extreme X2O. For more info, AbundantLifeMovement.com or call 910-527-2260.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
If you're looking for that ratchet, you're in the wrong place. It's the nation's urban internet station, Sensation Station Network.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane. Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. Just before the break, we were talking about a man's worth. Now we're going to come into this segment where we're talking about the super women. About our ladies and those of us that we think we have to walk around with that S on our chest. We're going to have to break down some myths. You know, we talked about some really great things. And again, I want to thank all my listeners out there and everybody that's tuning in. I don't remember everybody's name, but Jerry, Bacon, Hardcore, Natalie, and some of the others. Thank you so much for your questions, and we're going to get to them. But right now, before we go into talking about the importance of a woman listening to a man, I have a question from a listener, Daryl White. He says, what do you think about this dialogue as it relates to social surroundings, navigating around expectations and stereotypes inside your own community and outside? That is a very deep question and very loaded. And we're going to go with Santrell first. And thank you, Daryl, for that question.
Honestly, Cherry, I really do believe it takes courage to be in those situations and to stand firm in who you are and to not back down to when the guys are having the conversation, whether it be around the water cooler or you're watching a game or whatever it is, that it takes courage to be able to stand and say, you know what, I don't have a problem with showing both sides. It doesn't make me less of a man at all. And that takes time to develop, but we as individuals, men and women, we have to develop that courage to be able to stand in who we are, no matter what the environment is, because at the end, you take yourself wherever you go, and you have to be pleased with who you are in these groups.
And that is so true. And I like what you said about that. It's not just about men. This question, I don't think it was related just for men. It's for women too. You got to be, comfortable in your skin, comfortable in who you are, and be very unapologetic about what you want to do in life and what you think. Jay, what's your comment on this question?
It's just not always as easy as Santrell makes it out to be. A lot of it has to do with your upbringing. A lot of times the parents aren't there. They have to work in order to provide for their children. Or a lot of black children are coming from single parent homes, as you mentioned last week on your show. So they don't have the parents there to build up that mental strength for them to stand strong and firm in who they are, regardless of the situation. As a black man, I have found that you have to be able to talk Ebonics in the hood, because otherwise you won't be respected. But at the same time, you have to be able to speak intelligently if you're around this particular crowd, and then if you're around people of the other persuasion, you have to be able to even speak a different language. And oftentimes, for me, when I'm around my intelligent peers, I talk too ghetto for them. When I go back home to the ghetto, I talk too intelligent for them. So there's this awkward place that oftentimes you just don't fit in. And and it's just not always easy to just be that person, as you're saying, who you are.
And you said you have to adapt to whatever environment you're in.
Obama's a good example of that. I mean, you had black people saying he was not black enough. At another time they were saying he's too soft and too passionate, and he wasn't respected in the beginning. So, black man, the communication and language issue is a hard barrier for us.
Well, and that's true. I hear that, but I'm going to talk about what you said about single parents, homes, mothers especially, or that they're not there. And again, like I said last week, we do have some of you single fathers out there that are holding it down and doing exactly what us women are doing, and I applaud you for that. But I'm going to have to speak to you from a standpoint of me as a single mother. Now, I hear this a lot, and I hear people say it all the time, and I mentioned this on the show last week, that they use the excuse that I'm a single mother, I have to work, I'm not there, I cannot do all I want to do for my kids, and that's why, one, they go astray, and they listen to the friends in the streets, and they do all this other stuff. But I'm going to kill that myth for you, because there's a lot of women out there, single mothers like myself, that wasn't an option. I made time for my children. I worked full-time, I was even in school full-time, and I was a full-time mother. I didn't care what time of day it was. We sat down and we talked. We had conversations. I chose, and I'm not saying this is for every woman out there, this is just me. I chose not to be in serious relationships because that was going to take away from the time that I needed to give to my kids, and that was just for me. And with that, saying that too, I was a hot mess. I didn't need to be in anybody's relationship. Just if I'm gonna put it out there, I'm just gonna keep it real, because that's what this show is about. But I made time for my kids. We talked. We had a dinner together. We did things together. Instead of going out a date cheesing in some dude's face, I was cheesing in my kids' face. We were having game night. We were doing those things. So that argument that I can't be there for my child because I have to work, I'm killing it right now. I'm killing it. All of my kids graduated with honors. Nobody's been in jail. Nobody's disrespected anybody. My son doesn't walk around here talking Ebonics. Neither do my daughters. They don't have their clothes hanging off. We don't have 9,000 children hanging around. My kids were taught responsibility because I was responsible. Was I right all the time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If my kids called me out on it, I had to answer it. Now, we talked about that, and you know how we said that you have to listen. Santrell said something on the break that I want her to say on the mic for my ladies, and I want you guys to listen very clearly to what she is saying, because this is key into not only understanding yourself, but the man or your mate, the person that you're with. Can you expound a little bit more on what you were talking about on the break?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, I am a mom to 2 sons, and I have several brothers, but most importantly, I am a wife to a young man for 28 years. We've been together almost 30 years. So we grew up together as well. And one of the things that I've had to learn and continue to practice is when we are talking, I'm not here to solve the problem. It is my job to intently listen to him, to listen to what he may not be actually saying, so that I can be there to support him fully. And I give him that space, his emotional space as well, but is intentional listening to what he is saying.
Now, I know a lot of you guys are out there sitting like, well, that's very difficult because he doesn't talk, and I get frustrated. Patience is the key.
Right.
You got to have patience. And you got to understand that you ain't always 100 either. Just like you need to be lifted up, he needs to be lifted up. And I can honestly say I think a man would appreciate a woman that's sitting down, taking the time to learn about him and who he is. And even when you're getting into relationships, ladies and men, this is for both of you. Learn who the person is. Know about their past. When we're going to come back, we're going to talk some more about this, because I think it's really important that we understand what our roles are and why it's so important to the family. You're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
health is at stake. Diabetes, gout, high blood pressure, inflammation, and joint pain, even weight loss. It's time to end your battle. The Abundant Life Movement is dedicated to the building of generational health by transforming your water with the power of alkaline to improve hydration and fight against acidic and unhealthy conditions in the body. Here's a testimonial from Linda Rogers Brown and Pamela McMillan.
2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no pain and no symptoms associated with that illness. It's a silent killer. I was introduced to Extreme X2O alkaline water, and within 2 days of drinking it, I was off all my pain medicine, and now we're 6 years strong, no chemo, no radiation, no cancer.
I am a 3-time cancer survivor. I was born with thyroid cancer. By being on the alkaline products allowed me to be able to cope currently with colon cancer. Now I'm able to function and be more mobile within 3 days of being on the product.
Extreme X2O, when the water you're drinking is damaging your health. Extreme X2O. For more info, AbundantLifeMovement.com or call 910-527-2260.
There's a power you have within you, unlike any other. You can't explain it. It's just there. It drives you, compels you. You cannot ignore it. Do you feel it? It's that power that tells you you can do the absolute impossible. The power that tells you you're more than what you currently are. The power that tells you it's time. Launch. Move. Skyrocket your life with Rocket Sports One fitness gear. RocketSports.com.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. We're at the segment of the show. We're talking about superwomen. We want to hear from you. We want to know your comments. We want to know your questions. You can text or call them to 678-613-5857, or you can type them into the conversation piece on Facebook, and we'll get back to them. At the break, we got a comment from one of our listeners, Zach Clark, and I'm going to have Santrell read it out to you, and then we're going to comment, and give our take on what he says. Go ahead, Santrell.
Hey, Cherry. So Zach says relationships, and boy, he's got 2 exclamation points behind it, so he means it. He says it is really tough because for some reason, folks just can't remain focused only on what's so important for our lifestyle for each other's generations to win. So basically is we're not focusing on the important things that will help our individual lives and actually make generational change.
What do you think about that, Jay?
Wow, that's definitely a loaded question. I just say to women that, yes, we close up, but I would love to see women, I call it smooths up to us. Like, even if we're not opening up, just tell us that it's okay for us to talk to you, that you're there for us. Give us a kiss or peck. Those things go a long way versus, saying, what's your problem? You got attitude now or whatever it might be, which is not going to help the situation. Love brings openness.
Yeah,
and
you're
so
right.
we just need to feel that.
You're right, and the thing is, I want you guys to be clear. We have a lot of us women out there that close up too. We don't talk. We're not going to tell you the truth on some things because we think you don't care and don't want to listen. Now, Daryl White also put out there, he said, people have to ask themselves if they listen to answer or listen to hear and understand. Now, Daryl, you said a mouthful there because last week Dion said the same thing. He said it's like when you're in a conversation with the other person, whether it's male or female, they're so close-minded, they're like playing double dutch, trying to get in and say, I'm going to shoot down whatever he said or whatever she said. The key is you got to listen. You have to listen. You have to come with an open mind. And ladies, I know we go through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is put on us. We're expected to be more than what we are supposed to be, and that's why we get that term, the superwoman. And we are, in a sense, we're here for everybody because we're nurturing by nature. Women are nurturing. But what about those women who weren't nurtured when they were younger? And what I mean by that is they don't show the affection and the love and the cuddling and all of that because they don't know how. I can tell you from my personal experience, I'm not really a very cuddly person. I don't do all the hugging and everything like that. I mean, I do it when I want it and then get on. But, and I had to, I'm just being real. I had to learn how to adapt to that. And it was hard. So I get it. So when you have two people, that man and that woman, that are struggling with that, what do you suggest we do? How do we become one? What are your thoughts on that, Santrell?
Wow, that is a very good question because, for myself, it just depends. My husband is the same way. I have, again, given him room to express himself emotionally, and he gives me that room. We are not people who need that. We always say, we've been together since high school. We know what we know, but we're still open to knowing some more. So it's just really, even when it seems like he's good and he doesn't need that hug or anything like that, even if that's not the physical affection that he may need at that moment, I'll still say to him, you know what, you're a good man and you are loved by me. And all he can say is, oh. So it may not be that I need to touch him or he needs to touch me, but you find some way of expressing that love. And it's different for all of us. Him going out, if I left something in the car and I mentioned it and I come back into our room and he's gone out to get it for me so that I didn't have to trouble myself, I'm good with that because that's an expression of love. It doesn't always have to be kissy boob. It's those other things. So when you are concerned about your mate expressing love to you, think about what that really means because it may be happening in ways that you're not recognizing.
That's very key. And when we come back, we're going to get Jay's take on it as well. And thank you, Centrell, for giving that. Ladies, please don't go anywhere. And men, you either, because we're talking about a man's worth, super women, and we're going to tie it into the family. You're listening to Cherry on Destiny Talk Live.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change, called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans.
When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer.
I want to be a warm fleece on a
I
cold
want to be
day.
a football
I want to
stadium.
be a bike that races around the country.
I want to be a bench on a forest trail.
When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
And so a new American industry has been born.
Sensation Station Network.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. We are talking about a man's worth, superwomen, and family ties. And this is the section where we're going to talk about family and the conversation we've been having, how it relates and how we can make a strong, better family unit. This is where we also want you to call in and communicate to us. Express your thoughts. Give us your questions at 678-613-5857. You can text or call. Please do not text while you're driving. If you have a question or a statement, please type it in if you're on Facebook, and we'll get right back to you. Just before the break, we talked about the question of how does that work with your family. Jay, give your quick thought on the conversation we had, and then we're going to take a question that we had online.
Absolutely. So a few things, and I'll make it really quick. One, putting it into family ties. Kids need to see love. They emulate what they see. So if you're not showing love and affection to one another, that boy, that girl in the home, they're not going to do that in their household. They're going to think that it's okay not to kiss, or I call it smooth up, And here's another topic for you in the future. I think a lot of black women are losing black men to white women because they're not doing the smoothing, just walking up to their mate saying, baby, I love you, and kissing them for no reason, just sitting on the lap and just holding them for no reason, because for whatever reason, that's a whole nother story and topic in itself. And as a result, the third part and final comment is when men do try to show the love and the affection and just helping out with cooking and doing whatever needs to be done, we're shot down like, wash your hands or whatever it might be. Why did you do that? Why did you not get this? Why did you not get that? Why did you get that flavor? And we're just trying to be helpful. So when you begin to slap us on the hand with why this and why that, why didn't you do this and get that flavor? Guess what? We're not going to do it no more. And so you're losing us there. So
yeah, that is a loaded. Yeah, that's a loaded statement, and we do have a show coming up for that, and I'm gonna bring you back. But he segued right into a comment that one of our listeners, Diana Cuervo, put out there. And Central, can you? Because I'm not close to what she wrote, but can you read that out? What she said?
Yes, what she said was we need to learn our mate's love language, and that is a mouthful.
It is, because love language doesn't just mean between the mother, the father, the man, the woman, but it also means love language to your children, to the kids, and as family. And we were talking about that. It's important, guys, for you guys to sit down. I don't care what time of day it is or when it is, even if it's on the Saturdays. You got to have that family time. You got to talk. You got to talk about what's happening during the week, what's going on with the kids, what's here, so you can learn them. You know, I told you guys I wasn't a very affectionate person, and I wasn't. But my kids, they were everything to me. I tell people this, and I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. My oldest taught me what love meant. My son taught me what patience is. My youngest taught me what perseverance. And I tell you what, if it had not been for them, I wouldn't know how to love nobody. I wouldn't even be here today. I wouldn't be the person that I am had it not been for the three of them, because I learn from them daily. And I want you guys to know family is important. Those children need us. And when we come back, we're going to dive deeper into why we should be the role models we need to be. You're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. You know, I help people solve difficult problems every day, but one problem has me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. Luckily, the Feeding America network of local food banks collects surplus food, giving hope to hungry children and their families. But they need your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by GetSchooled and the Ad Council.
Sensation Station Network. Radio, not dumbed down.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. This is the part of the show that I want to let you know that you are always on my mind. I'm going to give these birthday shout-outs to my Virgos. We got John Daly of Columbus, Ohio. Marvin Harris, known as Steady Mobbin from Bakersfield, California. Joyce Lady Joy out of Atlanta, Georgia. Tanya Daly out of Orlando, Florida. Letitia Davis, that's my niece, Woot Woot, from Charleston, South Carolina. Michael McDonald from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Sherry McHale from Piston, Pennsylvania. Michael Burnett from Nassau County, New York. Evangelina Edie, Orlando, Florida. Virginia Whittington, Orlando, Florida. Scott Teschner from Plains, Pennsylvania. Samantha Loves Them Cowboys, the Mir from San Diego, California. Ricardo Gomez, Dallas, Texas. Tony Bentley, Orlando, Florida. Ricky Dudley, Dallas, Texas. Aaron Godfrey, that's my cousin, whoop, whoop, from Atlanta, Georgia. Rod Jordan from Orlando, Florida. Eva Armstrong and Faye Benson of Buffalo, New York. We want to say happy birthday to all you Virgos out there. You know, Jay is a Virgo, I'm a Virgo, and we do it right. I also want to take this time out, guys, to pray for all of our people that are suffering from Hurricane Irma out there in Florida, to all those persons that have lost lives. I also want to give a shout out to my brother, Michael Henderson, and Sister Gwendolyn Bush. They are foster sisters and brothers, and they lost their mother the other night. So you guys please keep them in prayer. I also want to give a shout out to my sister Carolyn Griffin out in Kansas. She was admitted into the hospital today. So you guys keep her in prayer. And then also my oldest brother Ricardo Davis is in hospital. He's in hospice out in Florida. You guys please pray for them and let them know that we are still there for them, and that we just want to let you know that we care. Now,
and don't forget those Hurricane Harvey.
Oh yes,
people
I
in
almost
Texas.
forgot. Thank you so much for the Hurricane Harvey folks in Texas also, and anybody that was affected by any of those storms. I want to let you know we are praying for you, and we're hoping that, we're praying that God gives you peace at this time of need. Now, we were talking about family ties and why it's so important, and there was a lot of chatter going on out off the show about the conversation. Deanna Cuervo talked about love language, and I was saying how important it is for us as families to sit down and talk. Now, love language applies not only just to the man and the woman, but it also applies to the kids, and why it's important that we show them love, we show them affection, and we give them attention. Guys, we need to pay attention to our children, because when you guys think that they don't see you or they don't understand or what's going on, they really do. They really, really do. And Centrell was saying something over the break that I want her to bring and say to everybody on the radio about this love language and what we were talking about.
Oh, sure. When I spoke earlier about my husband, if I left something in the car and he went and got it for me so that I didn't have to be bothered with going outside, that for me is a way of expressing love to me. So oftentimes in relationships, we want to express love to our mate the way we think they want it, instead of taking the time to find out what is important for them. And then when they don't respond in the way that you expect, it's so easily to get your feelings hurt and then walk in a fence. When we get to that point, it's a matter of really just stepping back and checking ourselves, is that important to them? So really pay attention to your mate and find out what is the love language that they respond to, and behave that way so that they can actually receive what you're trying to give to them.
And I like what you said with that, with just your mate, but I'm going to turn a little twist on that, and I'm going to put it down for the kids. Okay, because sometimes as parents, we forget that they have feelings. If you discipline them, and I'm a firm believer of this, if you discipline them, you need to tell them why. You need to sit down and talk about that and understand why they're being disciplined, because it's just like if I'm in a relationship with Jay, Jay does something to make me mad, and I say, I don't want to talk about it, and walk away and don't give him an explanation. Then what? How does he know how to correct or fix the problem? You have to be that way with your children. It's not that they're running your household. You're making a healthy family by talking. You're doing things together. And I would suggest you guys do the round tables with one another. Talk about your days. Parents, take down those walls of I'm the parent and I don't do no wrong. Because mine, I told them I was trifling. They'll tell you, you talk to either one of them, they'll tell you when I sat down, oh, no, I did that. I need you to go back and read that book, because whatever you're doing, you didn't read the page right. You're not doing it right. And they appreciated that, and I used to say to them when they were growing up, I don't want you to be like me. Well, my oldest daughter put me in check one day, and she said, Ma, don't say that. I want to be just like you, because if I could do and go through half of the things with the grace that you went through it, that's the way I want to be. And y'all, I didn't really think I was going through grace, but it taught me that they were paying attention to me. They were paying attention, and I was just very careful. And I think that we should be that way. What do you think with your son, Jay? You're a single father. I mean, how was it for you? You have a boy.
Yeah, it's definitely rough. And I come from a family where it was do as I say, not as I do. You don't ask questions. We didn't have those round tables. And so while I communicated better with my son, I still didn't do it to the degree that you have done. And I've listened to you on the show here. We've talked off the show. I give you your props. You are a phenomenal mother. And everyone's not there yet. And again, we are generations behind as far as how to foster the development of our children. And so we can only just do better generation by generation. And so it's just hard being a single parent, raising a child. No matter how much education you have, I still did things wrong.
We all do things wrong. I'm not saying everything that I did, guys, and thank you for the compliment, Jay. Everything that I did with my children was right. I did what I felt was right. I chose to do different because I realized my kids didn't ask to be here. I brought them here. And again, I'm going to be straight out honest with everybody on the show, just like I was with my kids. They were my way of hiding behind them. I hid behind them to keep from answering my hang-ups. You know, so I figured if I focused all my attention on them, then I don't have to deal with that nonsense I got going on the inside of me, and I held on to it privately. I'm going to tell you that's a bad way to do things because you're slowly killing yourself, you're slowly dying, and you got to figure out a way to let it go. And my way with the round table was we didn't talk in my family growing up. We didn't. You know, my mom wasn't a very huggy type person. Neither was my father, but, you know, I knew they loved me. It was just we weren't the touchy-feely type. And it was okay, but I understood that growing up. But there were things in my life that I saw growing up that I refused for my kids to experience because I know how it made me feel. So it's important, guys, that we stay true to who we are. Like the story I said at the beginning, we reap what we sow. So when we come back, we're going to get more into this, and I want you guys to really, really chime in. And you're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
One in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council. 1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day. I want to be a football stadium. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. This is the part of the show where we call Knowledge is Power. We're going to give you some tips on how you can communicate better, and that's what we've been talking about. The whole gist of this conversation is communicating, and we're going to talk about, one, the truth about the tone. One, you want to try lowering the pitch of your voice a bit when you're talking to somebody, especially when you're having a disagreement or in a conversation that is important. Try making sure that you are mindful of your tone. You want to smile. This is warm up in anyone's voice. I mean, you smile while you're talking, you know, like now. We're smiling, we're talking. You want to do that. And you want to sit straight up and listen. Why is that important? Because you guys, the art of body language is also a form of communicating. So when someone is talking and you want them to listen to you, if I'm slouched down, I got my feet, hands crossed, I'm looking at you with a face like, I know you're not talking to me. That's not very inviting. It actually combative when you have your hands crossed when someone is talking. So sit straight up. If you have to, put your hands on your side or on your knee or whatever, but pay attention. And then you also want to speak like a star, and that says S stands for situation, T is task, A is action, and R is result. You want to work into those things, and we're going to dive in a little bit more and give you exactly what STAR means. And on the show, we'll put it out there. But again, communication is the key. Centra, what are some things you would tell people as far as communicating to look out for?
I would say use clarifying statements. So, for instance, Cherry, if you and I are having a conversation, I may say to you, so what I hear you're saying is, and I would give you what my interpretation of what you said was to make sure that I understood you. And if that is not correct, that is your opportunity to make sure, no, that's not what I was saying. This is what I was saying.
Awesome. Jay, real quick, what are your thoughts?
Weather the storm, go through it, whether the other person is crying, that's not necessarily to say let up. I mean, mean, you just have to go through it, and you have to get through that conversation no matter how it is. Walk away if it does get feisty, but you have to get through the conversation.
Thank you so much, guys. When we come back, we're going to talk about a man's worth. This is your host, Cherry G, and you're listening to Destiny Talk Live.
Now we come to the special feature of our program.
Sensation Station Network.
You cannot let a fear of failure, or a fear of comparison, or a fear of judgment stop you from doing what it is you want.
Let's talk about destiny. Destiny Talk. Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. Guys, this is where we're going to come back and circle around and talk about a man's worth. This is where you can also call in or text at 678-613-5857. If you're driving, please pull over and text. Do not text while you're driving. If you're listening online, you can also type your questions and your comments in on Facebook, and we'll get right back with you and answer them. And again, thank you to everybody that's out there listening. When we went off from the break, we gave you some tips on how to communicate. Now I want to come back to the man, a man's worth. I was looking and doing some research, and I'm going to have to refer to my computer here for a second. And we were talking about a Dr. Susan Krauss Whitburn said that for men, the reason why they don't do a lot of talking or they become have certain issues is because they're insecure. And I was reading some of her stuff, and I really thought it was basically built for both men and women, some of the comments she made. And maybe I misunderstood where she was coming from. But for me, this could go for any other person. When you're insecure comes the problems, and insecurity comes from not listening or following up on bad behavior. You know, let's just put it out there. Some men, if you are badgering them, ladies or whatever, and men vice versa for the women, they become insecure in who they are and they're afraid to express themselves, correct?
I can see that.
What do you think?
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
You know, so she said some signs that you can do to recognize if a man is insecure or a woman. Let's do it that way. The insecure person tries to make you feel insecure about yourself. Like when you start to question your own self-worth, it's typically around a specific person or a type of person. And you said that earlier, that when you try to be affectionate, when men try to be affectionate or whatever, and that woman shoots them down, or they're kind of, not valuing what they're saying or the type of person they are, that makes you start questioning yourself, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Central, for you too, would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I'm like you, Cherry. I believe that this applies to both genders.
Yeah, I don't think it's just really for men, but we always look at it that it's a man's fault. The reason why we are insecure.
Absolutely.
But couldn't we be insecure because we're insecure?
Well, to that question, I do feel that the other partner have an ownness in making the person feel more secure. So, for example, if I'm going out and not calling you, and I'm spending Friday nights out to 5 in the morning, with your permission even, but you're texting me and calling me and I'm not responding, that can make you feel insecure. So you're not crazy because I'm not responding. I begin to own what's going through your mind. Am I with someone else? What am I doing that I'm not responding? So I have an ownness to pick up the phone or text you back if that's going to make you feel more secure. So we as individuals we can make other people feel insecure, and we have to own the fact that I can make you feel more secure. If it's to hug you at night when I come in or walk through the door, if that's what makes you feel more secure and we're a couple, I need to own that and give you that hug.
Well, he said something that I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And let me explain. It's because you've already explained to me that you're going out with your friends and you're hanging out. Why am I blowing your phone up? That's an insecurity in itself. And why are you insecure? Mm-hmm. Why am I calling you? Why am I not believing what you said? That's
and that's just one example.
Yeah.
But it's nothing wrong with the fact that if you want to text me and call me just to say I'm thinking about you or what you're doing right now, where you all at, not in an insecure type way, but you're just you have me on your mind, and I ignore you.
Okay, that's different. But I'm thinking about, like, if I know you're out with the fellas and you're out at the club, I shouldn't be. I know you're at the club. You told me that's where you were at.
Right.
I got to trust you with that, right?
Exactly.
I got to trust you, just like the man has to trust the woman. But now, if you're going out and you're spending a lot of time with your friends and not me, then yeah, I'm going to be insecure. But she also said something that I thought was really interesting, that when we're together, the cell phone rings or a text message comes through or Facebook chime come through and we pick it up and read it. Uh-oh. What do you think about that? I'm going to tell you, I have a problem with that. When I'm in your face, that's my time. I don't want you on Facebook. I don't want you on the phone. If something happens to where you have to emergency call come in, I get that. But if you on the phone and Facebook, somebody hit you up with a message and you got to read it, we got some issues here. What you think about that?
I think that goes to that whole discussion about social media interfering with the communication that we need to have between each other. So there are limitations to how much I'm going to be on social media and how much I expect my spouse to be on social media, because that cannot take the place of our communication.
What do you think about that, Jay, though?
I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, it depends on how long you've been in a relationship. It's in the beginning, yes, what you're saying is absolutely correct. If we've been together for a while, I should be able to pick up and read these messages when I want, within reason.
Okay.
But at the same time, I do have a saying of be where your feet are. My feet is here with you right now, and so that's where I need to be.
That's right.
And that is key. And guys, like I said, this is where we want you to call in and talk and give us your comments and your questions. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. You're listening to Cherry G on Destiny Talk Live.
Deliberate dumbing down.
Dumb down society.
Deliberate dumbing down of America.
Dumb down public. Why would they do this?
Sensation Station Network. Radio, not dumbed down.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
You don't usually get a stock tip from a 16-year-old, but I'm here to tell you about a different kind of stock. It's called Better Futures, a stock for social change that's not about making money. Instead, you invest to help students like me go to college. This is beyond a simple donation. It's the opportunity for America to invest in its kids and take an active stake in the future of the country. The return on your investment isn't money. What you get back is knowing you protected our potential. So one day, that potential can grow up to become surgeons and architects, executives and engineers, people who can change the future just by being a part of it. My name is Alicia, and I am your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. A public service announcement brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Great leaders aren't born. They're made, and not just anywhere. They're made in special places by special qualified trainers in places like the Academy of Creative Coaching. The Academy of Creative Coaching is an international certification program with courses in health and wellness coaching, spiritual coaching, relationship coaching, executive coaching, life coaching, and cultural competency coaching. Courses are online, hybrid, or face-to-face. The Academy of Creative Coaching is empowering coaches to empower the world. Make a positive change in yourself and the world. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com.
Vince Lombardi once said that it's hard to be aggressive when you're confused. Some of us think that taking our lives to the next level, both personally and professionally, is a confusing and complicated process. Guess what? It's not, and I can prove it. My book, Truisms, will show you how living your life by rules that are so self-evident and obvious, you'll say, I knew that. This powerful yet short, detailed bestseller is on sale right now, under $10. Go to michaelmcfadden.com. That's michaelmcfadden.com, and let Truisms help you to the next level.
The world is changing.
And we are change. Sensation Station Network. Radio of Dumbdown.
Up in the sky, it's a bird.
It's a plane.
back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. I'm coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. Just before the break, we were talking about a man's worth and insecurity, and we're going to keep that conversation going, but turn it around and put it on the women now, and talk about some of the things that we are accused of being insecure of. And guys and ladies and gentlemen out there, if you're wanting to participate in the conversation, please text or call to 678-613-5857, or write your comments in on Facebook, and we'll get back with you. Now, we had a lot of chatter off air on the part of insecurity and so forth as it relates to a man and woman. But I also went and did some research, and I found out that there's, by Cynthia Wilson of Lifestyle, she said the 15 most common insecurities a woman has. And I'm going to read out a few of them. They said sexuality, age, weight, hair color, eye color, height, breast size, he will not call me back, he just want to sleep with me, he's dating other women, and he's not attracted to me anymore, and money and career, creative life, and intellectual life. Now, they only had 5, we had 15. I'm kind of, looking like, okay. They're trying to say we toe up, right? As I'm looking at this, some of it, I don't know, help me out. And callers out there, I need y'all to help me out on this. I'm not sold on the hair color and eye color and the height. I'm not sold on that. So I need you guys, if you understand that, to please call in and help me out on it. But I'm going to throw this at Jay real quick, because I do hear a lot of guys, and I'm going to put this out there, that say stuff like, they like the woman's size when they see it, or, and they'll tell you, I don't want you to lose that behind, or I like, I'm a butt man or a leg man and breast. Do you guys just don't know how much pressure you put on women. Explain that to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of it, and I've grown in life, but I can remember with my first wife, even after having a baby, I was on her about weight. But here it is. I mean, I don't know if it gives it any understanding, but I was a fitness trainer at that point in life, and so I wanted her to be her best. She was a school teacher. I was on her how she dressed. It wasn't important for her. I tried to explain to her that little girls and little boys are watching you, so you should dress your best going into the classroom, so that little girl can look up and say, I want to dress like Mrs. I'm not going to say her name, or even that little boy that admires you or have a crush on you, he's going to work harder because he smells your perfume, or he's attracted to who you are. But there's been a story right here in Atlanta, Georgia, maybe last year, where I think a teacher was fired or suspended based on how she dressed. So it's 2 parts of it.
Well, so this is what I heard from Jay. And then, Centra, you tell me if you hear from me. Jay was saying that I'm going to tell you what you need to look like, what you need to dress like, how you're supposed to be, and that's how it is. Tell me what you heard.
I've grown, though. I'm a better man now. That was in my 20s. I turned 40 yesterday.
Listen, I had to do that because
I'm guilty. We don't need her response.
I love it because if you think about it, so many men are accused of that, and they don't mean it sometimes to be rude. Like he said, he was a fitness instructor. He loved his wife. He wanted her to be at her best at all times.
We want to be proud. Like, I wanted to walk around and have that trophy wife. I wanted to look good,
But you see, you kept, what is the thing that has gone through this?
Yeah.
It was what you wanted.
I was getting ready to say, but we didn't sit down and think, how am I feeling about this conversation or this criticism he's giving me? She probably took that like, I'm not good enough for him anymore.
But here's what women lose at is what we were attracted to, that's what we want. So, and it could be vice versa as well. So, yeah, you were a bottle shape when we got together. We want that to stay in shape. And so to lose it, it's like, no, babe, you got to get it back together.
Okay, he said something there, but hold up.
So you gained 50 pounds.
Right.
Are you the same person that I married, the same woman that I fell in love with? do I have the right to lose feelings based on that?
Okay,
Because
well,
you've changed.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What did you fall in love with? Was it her body and her shape, the way she looked, or did you fall in love with her as the person?
All of it.
Well, if you did, then the body ain't gonna matter. Because you're going to love her regardless. And, you know, men kill me, and I'm not jumping on you guys, but you guys kill me with, oh, she got to get that bottle shaped bag, and you had hair when I met you.
But if you can control it.
You understand what I'm saying?
If you can control it and you have the power to control
Okay.
it, why not?
Okay, then
Control it.
when you get the beer gut and you still want me to be the bottle
You
shape.
have that right.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. But you're right. But I want people to understand it's double standards here. I know friends of mine who look toe up from the flow up, but they want their wives to be that dime piece that they married. And I'm like, hold up, bruh. You need to be running around the gym with me. What you mean? You know? What do you think about that, Central?
Absolutely. The first thing I thought of when you were talking, and I'm so glad that you've changed because the delivery makes such a difference in how it is received.
I was horrible.
If you are coming to me, you know, men are naturally, you guys, there's a fix-it part of you. And so when it comes to, I want to solve this problem, even though you're not saying that. And so that delivery is, I want to fix what's wrong with you. And that it can become a wall. A woman is going to put up a wall for that. But my husband and I, like I said, we have been together a little over 30 years. Our packages over that time have changed.
Yeah.
But there's no way on this earth that if my husband has gained a few pounds that I'm going to say, you know what, you weren't as thin as you were when I met you, so you've got to go. And he's not saying the same to me. Life changes, our packages change, but my love for you does not.
It grows. And, you know, and I'm glad he said that because that is really a big conversation. And when we come back from the hour, I'll share a story with myself because I'm big about that. I'm big about being transparent. You are listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
That's funny.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face, and posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do.
Know someone being bullied online? You can be a witness and make a difference by letting the world know it isn't cool and by letting your friend know you care. Learn more at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
When it comes to saving money, don't act like a baby.
Goo goo gaga.
Be the boss and make a budget.
I'm the boss, baby.
You're not the boss of me.
I am the boss of you.
Are not.
M2.
Are not.
M2.
Need a little help?
Aren't you gonna do any work?
I'm very busy delegating.
Create a personalized savings plan.
We can share.
You obviously didn't go to business school.
And get other tools and tips at feedthepig.org. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Deliberate dumbing down. Dumb down society.
Deliberate dumbing down of America.
Dumb down public. Why would they do this?
Sensation Station Network. Radio, not dumbed down.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. We are talking about family ties, super women, a man's worth, and knowledge is power. Those are some things that are coming up in the show. But right now, I want to go back to what we were talking about as far as the men and delivering the messages they need to their women. We got a comment that was made by Brian Alford. We're going to have that read out. But before we go, I said I wanted to share something with you. Just know, like we were saying, how your body changes when you're with your maid or when you're growing up. Look, I, up until the age of 45, was like wearing a size 3-4. I don't know where all this stuff came from, but it jumped up on me like, I got you. You ain't going nowhere, girl. This is it. You know, and I was like, dang, them family jeans finally caught up with a sister, you know. So it was hard for me to get, accept all this right here. And I was like, Lord, I think Jesus didn't give it to me when I was younger because I was a hot mess. He wanted to wait until I calmed down before he threw it all on me. So that's why I think I got it now. But, Central, please read the comment that Brian put out.
I will. Brian Alford said, I think in relationships, couples should work on themselves to be the best you, be it exercising, mind stimulation, etc. Make it a part of the love you have for each other.
Thank you, Brian. That is very true, and I hope you guys listen to that now. Like I said, we had a lot of chatter off the air, and I want Jay to say something he said back. The reason why he was so on his wife to be a certain way, because it's key, and I think it's important because women, we do this, and some of us men do this too. We get into a relationship, get comfortable, and be like, oh, I got him now, or I got her now, I ain't got to do nothing. But why was it so important for her to look a certain way?
Well, I think part of it, not that I wanted her to be my mom or anything, but my mother was a dresser. My mother was sharp. I mean, she was the sharpest woman on the job, on the block. Everyone commended her on how her fashion game was. And so with my wife, even with gaining a couple pounds, my thing is just own it. You got the weight on, dress it up, make it look good. Don't just be whatever because you've gained some weight. So whether you lose it or don't, you can still be big and look good. And so she just didn't do that. So I think it was just my mother having been exposed to all the women. My mom is one of 16, 9 girls and 7 boys. All of those 9 girls dressed their butts off.
I tell you what, my mother said, even if you look like $1 million, even if you only got 2 in your pocket. Nobody should know how you look. I mean, we didn't go into stores. I didn't do it with rollers. If I was going somewhere, I'm always put together because you never know who you're going to meet. Never know who you're going to walk into, what your next job may come from, or whatever. You never know. Central, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. You know, we were the same way. We did not I come from working people. We didn't have a lot of means, but we never walked out of the house not put together. And it was just be clean and be neat. And I'm the same way. My kids are the same way. But we have to be very careful because if I want to run down to the Kroger and throw something on, I am not going to feel ashamed of that either because that is not where my value lies. I like to dress nice, but my value is not in there. I don't feel like I'm less of a person because I decided to do that today.
But society judges you based on what you look like. People get first impressions from that. And so you may meet your career opportunity down the line, but they've seen you in the grocery store with the rollers or the jogging pants, and as a result, they have a perception of you, right or wrong.
I agree to a point.
We have a caller on the line. We're going to go to the caller. Caller, go ahead.
Yeah, how you doing? I just wanted to make a comment about the 15 women securities. How you doing today, there, Ms. Cherry?
I'm doing good. Who am I speaking with?
This is Sandy Bear.
Oh, well, hey.
One of your brother Silas.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for calling in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this talk about wanting to change people or get them to morph or to be what we think they should be is an unhealthy attitude towards the relationship. It should be more to the extent of if the person is a certain way when you met them, I think it's very unfair for you to try to change them, tell them what they have to keep and give up and all this. This is really controlling the relationship and controlling the other person.
Exactly.
And then, and nothing against the brother in the studio, but I wanted to comment, piggyback on what he said too. If you're going to be big, make it look good. Let's not encourage people to be unhealthy. It's like there are some parameters, I think, and some boundaries that we need to maintain, but at all costs, let that person be the individual that attracted you and encourage them to continue to be the best person that they can potentially be.
I agree.
And then if they're falling outside the boundaries of who they are, then you should be an encourager, as Ms. Santrell said. Hey, wait a minute, come back to what you were doing. If you want to lose 5 pounds, baby, I'm on your team. If you don't lose the 5 pounds, I'm still on your team because I love you. Exactly. And I just wanted to call in and say that. I hope I didn't throw too much shade on anybody. Nothing personal on anybody in the studio there. I'm enjoying the show, and thanks so much for bringing up this topic.
Oh, thank you so much for calling in and giving your comment. And you are absolutely right. We are not here to do any judgment on anybody, but we're going to answer more, expound more on that in a few. You're listening to Destiny Talk Live. I'm Cherry G, your host.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. You know, I help people solve difficult problems every day, but one problem has me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. Luckily, the Feeding America network of local food banks collects surplus food, giving hope to hungry children and their families. But they need your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
When I grow up, I want to be a new pair of blue jeans. When I grow up, I want to be a kid's first computer. I want to be a warm fleece on a cold day. I want to be a football stadium. I want to be a bike that races around the country. I want to be a bench on a forest trail. When I grow up, I don't want to be a piece of garbage. And if you recycle me, I won't be.
Give your garbage another life. Recycle. Learn how at iwanttoberecycled.org. Brought to you by Keep America Beautiful and the Ad Council.
I'm more resourceful than I thought.
My suit can still make an impression.
My video games are still game changers.
And my lamp can bring others a bright future.
Because when I donate my stuff to Goodwill,
it helps fund job placement and training for people right in my community.
Now my stuff gets a second chance.
And will give someone in my community
a second chance too.
Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs. Find your nearest donation center at goodwill.org. That's goodwill.org. This message brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Uncle Dan? Mom? Dad? If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them, I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
safer when my friends come over. As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
We'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. We want to thank our caller for calling in. Vince, thank you so much for your comment and your input. And this is also an opportunity, guys, if you want to call in or text in your comments, do it at 678-613-5857. Again, that's 678-613-5857. If you're listening on Facebook, go ahead and type your comments into the question comment box, and we'll be able to get back with you. We were talking about relationships, how healthy it is for the man and the woman, how we respect everybody. And we're going to bring this in now back to families, because it also goes into your children. You know, we were talking about, Jay had said how he wanted his wife to stay in shape or either own what she has and then work through that problem. And Centrell was saying how it was important for us to understand where each person is. And we all gain weight, lose weight. We have to be careful because we don't know what's going on. Sometimes it could be a medical condition. Sometimes that person could be going through something mentally that the only way that they know how to handle it is to eat or to gain the weight or whatever it is. We just have to be there. And it's not just eating. We got people who are out there that are bulimic, that are, hurting themselves by throwing up their food. But we got to look at our children too, because guys, a lot of times when our children gaining weight and doing different things, they're stressed. You're stressed. I'm telling you, your kids are stressed. They are stressed. They have pressures on them in school now. This bullying thing, this online bullying. Oh, I don't look like Susie, so I got to look like this. You got people out here telling these kids they got to have a size 2 waist and, whatever, and they killing themselves looking like Barbie, don't know what they're doing on the inside of their stuff. So we have to be careful. I suggest, and Jay, since you were a trainer, do you still do that now?
Every now and then,
Well,
upon request.
what I suggest, and you tell me if this is a good thing. Say for instance, you have a wife or one of your child or your husband, somebody in your family is overweight. Why don't you guys do a workout program together? That's your family time. You go ride a bike, walk the park, or do a spin class, something. Do you think that would be a good suggestion or something healthy for the family to do?
Yes, absolutely. But also it depends on the individual. For me, my workout time is like my individual time. Like that's my getaway from the wife or from the children, from the house. So, me individually, I don't like to work out with anybody because I don't like the chit chatter. I'm in focus. I'm being a visionary. I'm thinking about tomorrow, the future, whatever I can do to be a better me for my family. So that necessarily wasn't an option. Does that make me bad? I don't know.
No, but again, and thank you for your honesty. But I think for me, if it was something that I thought that would help my family, I would do it. But like me and my kids, we had this thing on Saturdays. We used to do ghetto karaoke jam. We used to dress up. You had to be in a character, we did game night. We even did a thing where we did murder mystery dinner theater. We came in character. What do you think about that, Centrell, when it comes down to family? Do you think, like, especially if we're talking about weight and everything, would that be something that you would do with your family?
Oh gosh, absolutely, because we are in the throes of that right now. The entire family, we've decided to go to a vegan diet, and there were some underlying health issues for one of our children that we weren't aware of. It's actually on my side of the family. And so what we decided to do, we said, you know what, this is not just going to be this individual can only do this, and that as far as eating and so on. We said this is our whole house because we wanted her to know that we are in it with you. And so it is not just, it alleviates the pressure that they may feel, and it's actually good for all of us. So, and I understand where you're coming from, Jay, in that, workout time is your time for reflection, it's your time for focusing and so on. But what we decided to, because my husband is that way too, but what he had also made the decision of was, you know what, this is my child. So where I need to adjust, I will. If it is me working out twice a day so that I can be there to support her, and then I can go work out myself and use that time the way I want to, then that's what I'll do. So we are in the midst of that now. And so it is just, we're there because, and our explanation to her was this: we want to help you. We're helping everyone in the family because we don't want your body telling you what to do. We want you telling your body what it's going to do. We
Exactly.
don't. So it's us. We're a team at this.
Exactly, because what I did was with my son when he was younger, that he was diagnosed with some stuff that we had to work on, and it was fairly new, so nobody knew what to do about it. So we changed our whole diet. The whole family did. I mean, me and my girls and him, we rode into, it was a ride and die thing. We didn't do a whole lot of sweets. We started out with a whole bunch of candy and all that stuff, and we stopped, because we had to make sure that we were on the same page because I wanted him to know we were there. And my oldest daughter, I love with her, and my son-in-law do with my granddaughter. Amani doesn't eat a lot of sweets. This is the first 4-year-old I know that you don't see a whole lot of candy or stuff in her. I mean, she don't ask for it. They do the vegetable thing and they spend that time with her, and I like that about them. They go out to the park and play with her. She's not just stuck at that tablet. Although this little girl could tell you how to work a tablet, call you and everything else, they make her, and they do that family time, and I love it. They go to football games together. They go to basketball games. They try to incorporate family time, and I think when people do that and families do that, that makes for healthy families and healthy relationships. What do you think?
Well, often you have to look at where that person comes from and what's their background, how were they raised. So a good example, going back to my wife, again, ex-wife at this point, she was raised completely different from the way I was raised. She was raised everything that you all are talking about. Dinner at the table, they had conversations, but of course her mother was a school teacher, her grandmother was a school teacher, so they come from a whole different economical background of functionality than the way I was raised, although we were both brought up in the hood and on the west side of Chicago, she was raised completely different. My parents were not there. We didn't have dinner every night. We never had round tables, maybe at Thanksgiving, maybe Christmas. So we didn't have those conversations. My wife woke up every morning, was like, "Good morning," with this big cheery smile. "How are you? We're going to have a blessed day." And I was like, "Oh my God, would you get this?"
She had too much Kool-Aid, right?
She wanted to have a full conversation at 6 in the morning. I'm like, who does this? Because we walked around, I grew up in a house where we walked around and no one said nothing to nobody. So it created issues, you know, within our household because I was raised different.
Well, you know, we didn't eat dinner together either growing up. We didn't have round tables. We didn't talk. I mean, like I said, growing up, you didn't talk about nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's 9 different personalities. 6 of us grew up together. I always tell people that my family had 2 sets of children. You know, the older ones were already gone and out. My oldest sister, her son and I are the same age. So that gives you an idea of what the age range is. But we didn't talk like that either. I mean, every now and then we sat down. Our thing was to be out of that house and be into something so we didn't have to be around here for all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So for me, the reason why the round tables and sitting at dinner is because I decided I was not going to repeat that cycle. I wanted to be something different and my kids to be, I didn't want to go around and do the same things that I had witnessed growing up. You know, the representation that I saw of love growing up, if that's love, you can keep it. I don't want it, you know? So I chose to do things differently. And I applaud you, though, because you said, hey, that wasn't how I was, and so I didn't know. But
it would make it easier
if you knew.
Exactly. And I have been raised that way. It would have been easier for her.
And so this goes back, if you guys humor me with this for a minute, doesn't it go back to the ties that because you don't want to be, or you didn't want your son to grow up the way you grew up, you took the time to do things differently, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you say that, the same thing for you, that now in order to stop some of this generational cursing that's going on and going around in this nonsense, we have to choose to do something different.
And it comes from education, empowering people, just what you're doing right now. You know, at 20-something years old, I had a child at 21. I was married. I just didn't know better. Even having a bachelor's degree, I just didn't know better. There weren't conversations like this going on 20 years ago.
Right.
And so that's why what you're doing is so powerful and so important.
I appreciate that because I didn't have a blueprint. I had my oldest daughter at 18. I was married by 19. And I'm going to be honest with you, I got married because I was like, I got to get the heck on. I can't be sitting around here. But that was the wrong reasons. If I knew back then what I know now, oh my God, things would have been a whole lot different.
And there weren't many examples for me to look at. You know, again, my mom was one of 16, my father's one of 12, but nobody was married. So there weren't examples of healthy relationships and family dynamics for me to emulate. The best thing I had was The Cosby Show.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about that on the last show, that we put the TV and the videos and everything in front of the kids, and that's what the problem lies as to why we can't break some of this stuff. But we're going to get more into this. You guys stay tuned because you're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
JBT 700 Miami Circle 30324. It's not a chain, it's a chain reaction.
Invest $49 a month at a real gym.
For more info, go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech.
Uncle Dan? Mom? Dad? If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them, I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home. Safer when my friends come over. As your neighbor, I'll feel safer. As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
We'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
There's a power you have within you, unlike any other. You can't explain it. It's just there. It drives you, compels you. You cannot ignore it. Do you feel it? It's that power that tells you you can do the absolute impossible. The power that tells you you're more than what you currently are. The power that tells you it's time. Launch, move, skyrocket your life with Rocket Sports One fitness gear. RocketSports-One.com.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. We are talking about a man's worth, superwomen, and family ties. This is where you can call in and leave your comments at 678-613-5857. We want you to join the conversation. You can text or call. Please do not text and drive. And if you type your comments and questions into the comment box on Facebook, we'll get back with you. We had a caller. Our caller had typed in also and wanted to say something, and I'm going to have Santrell read that out for us. Thanks.
Yes, our caller Vince gave a shout out to Jay. He said, I forgot to mention, you are a good and strong brother representing men on a sensitive topic.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Don't pump his head up. I'm just kidding. We appreciate that, though, because the show is, I want to let our men and our women know that both of you are valued.
Absolutely.
That nobody is wrong or right in any situation. But if we see things that we need to take care of, let's take care of them. Jay said something over the break that I want to bring it back out to our listeners on the radio. He talked about how when he was growing up that he witnessed women yelling at the men, cursing them out, and doing all of this unnecessary behavior. And the men wouldn't say anything. They would take it. I'm going to tell you right now, that's abuse. Cut it out. Stop it. It's unacceptable. It's no different than if a man was hollering at you, cussing you out, and swinging on you. Anytime men and women put their hands on each other, both of you have entered the realm of domestic violence, and you both have entered the realm of disruptive behavior. And if your children are witnessing this, now you're teaching them on how to behave and how to act. Now, like I said before, growing up, I witnessed that kind of stuff. And I was sitting around thinking, I got these 3 kids. There's no way that they're going to be involved in this. And, I started out in that disruptive manner. And then a situation happened. Jesus had to come to Jesus meeting with Cherry. And Cherry was like, okay, look, Lord, get me out of this. I won't get back in it. And that's what we have to look at. Now, Jay, what I want to say to you, I commend you for even saying that, because you touched on something that so many of us do, and it's not right. And I want you, if you can, please, just tell us a little bit how that made you feel witnessing that as you were growing up.
Yeah, it was definitely disturbing. I realized that it wasn't right as a child. I was brilliant. I don't want to say brilliant. I can't think of the word, but I was cognizant of what was going on as a child, and I knew it wasn't right. And I watched the behavior of the men that stood there and accepted it. And here's how it impacted me in my adult life: is somehow I found those same type of women in my life. And when I found myself in those same situations that I was being cursed out, berated, I felt as a man I had to accept it. You know, although I felt it was wrong, I felt to be a man that you had to take the abuse from a woman. And even to sit there, and I tried, because I was a little bit aheader than the other generations, to sit there and tell the woman, hey, that bothered me when you said that, or when you called me that name. You know, it hurt my feelings. And they looked at it upon as being weak to express those concerns.
And you know, we talked about it, and Centrell, I'm gonna have you chime in on that. It's normally sometimes when we respond and we act that kind of way, is because we're dealing with some personal issues of our own. Don't you think? What do you think about that?
I think so, because, you know, you end up, instead of wanting to deal with things that you need to deal with, it's easier to make somebody else the whipping board. It's easier. And when we were talking during the break, I said, you know, my father taught me something. In order to understand why someone behaves the way they behave, you need to look at why they're behaving that way. And we have talked about generations so often during this show that we need to look back and find out, because the women in your family who were abusive to those men, that is what they witnessed. They didn't come here that way. Right. So it's really looking back into the history of your family, because I did this for myself, with the women in my family. So what is going on? Looking back at the history to understand, where did this start? You can't fix it there, but really understanding the situation. And then we've been talking about making decisions for things to change. We have the power to change the narrative of our lives. And we have to take that power, but it's about understanding and making decisions, and then doing differently, equipping yourself so that you can do differently.
Now, let me ask you guys this, because I think this is important. We've been talking about the communication. We've been talking about the do's and don'ts of relationships and how a person should be. But in reality, we got to start with numero uno. Mm-hmm. We're never going to get or be happy in anything that we are in, whether it's good, bad. I mean, even if you get a promotion at your job, you're making more money, you're not going to be able to be happy with that if you're not happy within yourself. So what do we do to get to that point, to figure out, hey, what's going on with me and how can I change this? Think about that while we're on this break, and I want you guys to come back and give me your thoughts on it. Guys, you're listening to Destiny Talk Live, and I'm your host, Cherry G.
Uncle Dan? Mom? Dad? If you store your guns properly, so not just anyone can get to them,
I'll feel safer when I'm playing outside.
Safer when walking home.
Safer when my friends come over. As your neighbor, I'll feel safer.
As a school teacher, I'll feel safer.
we'll all feel safer.
Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B. Console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C. Take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D. Help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. This is the part of the show where we give our shout-outs to our birthdays. Happy birthday, all of my Virgos. Woo, because we're the bomb, diggity. We're going to say happy birthday to John Daly for Columbus, Ohio. Marvin Harris, also known as Steady Mobbin from Bakersfield, California. Joyce Lady Joy from Atlanta, Georgia. Tanya Daly from Orlando, Florida. Letitia Davis, who's my niece, happy birthday, sweetheart, from South Carolina. Michael McDonald from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Sherry McHale from Pittston, Pennsylvania. Michael Burnett from Nassau County, New York. Evangelina Edie from Orlando, Florida. Virginia Whittington from Orlando, Florida. Scott Titchener from Plains, Pennsylvania. Samantha Loves Them Cowboys Dahmer from San Diego, California. Ricardo Gomez from Dallas, Texas. Tony Bentley from Orlando, Florida. Ricky Dudley from Dallas, Texas. Aaron Godfrey, that's my cousin, whoop, whoop, from Atlanta, Georgia. Rod Jordan from Orlando, Florida. Eva Armstrong, and Faye Benson out of Buffalo, New York. This is also where we want to take the time out to say to everybody, please pray for all of our families, friends, and persons that were affected by Hurricanes Irma and Harvey out in Texas and Florida. I know quite a few people and family members that have lost their homes, that are going through some things right now. My parents, their roof is gone. It caved in. We got to get some stuff done there. But I also want to say to my foster brother and sister, Michael Henderson and Gwendolyn Bush, we are with you. They lost their mother on this a couple of days ago or a day ago, and I just want to let you know my heart goes out to you. I also want to give a shout out and a prayer for my sister Carolyn, who was admitted to the hospital in Kansas today, and then my brother Ricardo Davis, who's in the hospital. He's in hospice in Orlando. You guys, please keep them in prayer and in mind, and we just want to let you guys know and the families know that we are here with you and that we are praying that God gives you comfort and peace in your time of need. At the break, we were reading some comments, and I want we were talking about relationships too, and I have one that I want Santrell to read out, and I want to thank you. I think it's Damien, right?
Yes,
Damien Thomas, for giving us your comment. Go ahead, Santrell, and read that for me, please.
Damien says that he has gone through the same thing also that Jay was describing. His spouse would, as he says, fuss and cuss, but if he did it, he would be wrong, and basically that nobody should be talked to or treated like that.
And I agree. I totally agree. I think it's wrong. We talked about earlier, Santrell and I, we do a lot of conversations, and we were talking about transparency. And I remember on last week's show, I said, no one has secrets. And I truly believe that because somebody is in the mess with you that you are doing. And I'm sure they're talking to somebody about it. So no one has secrets. And I want to talk to my two guests here on what is, if they feel it is very important to be transparent, not only to your spouse or your whoever you're in a relationship with, but to your children. What do you think about that, Jay?
I'm a little bit indifferent. I believe sometimes as an adult, you don't have to tell the child everything, whether it's you're drinking or you're smoking or whatever you're doing personally in your life. It's not necessarily the kid's business to know. When they get grown, they can make those decisions for themselves. So I don't think that, depending on what it is, you don't have to tell them everything that's going on in your personal life.
Okay.
It's not for them to know. They're a child and they should just be able to act like a child.
I agree. Okay. Santrell, what do you think on that?
I am actually going to take that back a little bit. The transparency, for me, it started with me. I have to be, it's about truth. So before I can be truthful with anybody else, I need to be truthful with myself. And I don't have a problem with being transparent with others. As Jay said, you may not tell all of the good, the bad, and the ugly to your children because it depends on where their understanding is, but believe me, they can see it. Mm-hmm. But I do not walk in shame for what I've come through. And I am willing to share that where it's appropriate because there is somebody out there who can take from what I've done for myself and how I've come through it so that they can do those things for themselves so that they can be better. So transparency is important.
It is very important, and I agree with that because, again, guys, the only way that you're going to get better or even accept anything in your life, you have to be better with you. You have to accept you. And when we come back, we're going to go ahead and finish up bring this all to a close on how you need to be better with yourselves. You're listening to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G.
Everybody successful lays a blueprint out. You laid the blueprint out. I stayed true to my dreams. And by doing that, eventually it came true.
A lot of times, it's like in life, right? Life brings like drama, and you got to deal with this person, and then funky relationship here, and all these things. You try and just kind of balance them out as best I can.
Make a choice, right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way.
Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do.
Unleash your beast. Write your history.
Welcome back to Destiny Talk Live. I'm your host, Cherry G. I want to thank everybody that has been tuned in thus far to the show. We appreciate your comments. Again, I want to have my guests introduce themselves again and their businesses and how you can reach out to them. We'll start with Santrell.
I am Santrell Green, and I can be reached at Santrell, which is Santrell, at www.theeliamgrouptraining.com or at 678-993-0757.
Okay, Jay?
I am Jay Wesley, the founder of Cocktail Chronicles and the host for 100 Proof Radio Show right here on the Sensation Station every Tuesday at 10 p.m. You can find me at www.cocktailchron.com. Chron is short for Chronicles, so that's CHRON, cocktailchron.com, or on all social media at cocktailchron, the number 1.
Thank you so much. And guys, we're going to talk about this last piece, which is knowledge is power. We've been talking about communication. Again, I want to reiterate to my listeners that you need to be mindful of how you're talking and how you're listening. Listen with an open heart and an open mind. Don't be quick to judge and speak out of turn. Make sure that you do a self-check before you start talking or criticizing or giving someone else pointers that you haven't done. Make sure that you lower your pitch of your voice when you're talking. Beware of your body language. I am actually going to be putting up some of these pointers on site at Destiny Talk Live on Facebook. You can also follow me on Destiny Talk Live on Twitter, and as well as Instagram and on LinkedIn. I will be putting up some of the communication tips so you can get them, how you learn to be speaking like a star, and the truth about the tone and all about the body language. We're going to give you some tips on that for your body language. And before we close out with this knowledge is power, Santrell, give the listeners something that you want them to walk away with today.
2 things. Be accountable for yourself because you own this life and you own what it is for yourself. So be responsible for yourself. And when it comes to listening, listen with your mouth closed.
And Jay, thank you, Santrell. And Jay?
I would say you have to realize that you can change whatever your dynamics are in life. You have the power of your thoughts. And it took me to later in life for me to understand that I control what I think. And so you have to think with positive thoughts, and you have to want positive things to happen in your life. You attract what you are. Life is the state of mind. If you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. So you have to believe it in order to achieve it.
He said something that's very key there, guys. I want you to understand you have to be comfortable at who you are. Own the skin you're in. Love the skin you're in. And we, again, thank you for tuning in to Destiny Talk Live. I enjoy having this conversation with you every Thursday, and I thank my guests. Again, you're listening to Destiny Talk Live. I'm Cherry G, your host, coming to you every Thursday at 1 p.m. on the Sensation Station Network. Have a great day, everybody.
see what happens. Sensation Station Network.